The Amazon rainforest presents extreme survival challenges. With its dense vegetation and limited visibility, temperatures can fluctuate dramatically between day and night, creating additional stress on the human body. Heavy rainfall is frequent, making it difficult to maintain body temperature and find dry shelter. The environment contains numerous hazards, including venomous snakes, insects, and predators. Finding potable water presents a significant challenge due to parasites and contaminants in natural sources. Navigation is exceptionally difficult without clear landmarks and under the dense canopy that blocks sunlight. The psychological toll of isolation in such an environment can be as dangerous as the physical threats. Most survival experts consider extended stays in the Amazon without proper equipment to be nearly impossible. This survival case demonstrates how extreme ingenuity can leverage even the smallest resources. The individual transformed ants, one of the jungle's most numerous inhabitants, into a critical survival system component. This approach represents documented biological resource utilization in extreme conditions. The incident occurred in a remote region of the Amazon basin, one of Earth's most demanding environments. It falls into the rare category of long-term, solitary survival under extreme environmental pressure. Such cases demonstrate human adaptability when conventional survival resources are unavailable. The Amazon's biodiversity provided both challenges and unconventional solutions for sustained survival. This documented case shows how systematic observation of natural systems can yield practical survival advantages. The private aircraft experienced catastrophic failure over a remote, uninhabited rainforest region. The crash left the sole survivor with multiple serious injuries, including fractures and lacerations. No prepared survival kit was available, forcing immediate improvisation with limited resources. The dense rainforest environment presented multiple immediate threats: limited visibility, hazardous terrain, and unpredictable wildlife. This situation became a real-time experiment in human endurance under extreme physical and psychological stress. Survival in such conditions requires rapid adaptation to both environmental challenges and injury management. The combination of serious injuries and lack of prepared resources significantly reduced initial survival odds. This scenario demonstrates how quickly prepared advantages can disappear in survival situations. The crash inflicted severe injuries, including multiple broken bones. These injuries drastically reduced his mobility, turning basic movements into agonizing tasks. Survival fundamentals like constructing shelter or locating water became excruciatingly difficult. He lacked formal survival training, which is critical in such high-stakes scenarios. However, he did possess prior knowledge of the region's terrain and climate. This regional familiarity provided a slight advantage, but it was severely offset by his physical condition. In wilderness survival, mobility is often the primary determinant between life and death. The immediate aftermath thus became a race against time, pain, and deteriorating physical capability. The subject's survival strategy centered on utilizing large, biting ants found in the environment. These insects are often referred to as bullet ants due to their potent sting, which is considered one of the most painful insect stings known. The sting contains a neurotoxic venom that causes intense, radiating pain that can last for hours. In survival situations, such insects can serve dual purposes: as a potential food source and for medicinal applications. The protein-rich bodies of these ants provide essential nutrients when other food sources are scarce. Some indigenous cultures have historically used ant venom and body parts in traditional remedies for various ailments. This approach represents a calculated risk, enduring immediate pain for potential long-term survival benefits. The strategy demonstrates how extreme circumstances can drive innovative uses of available resources. The individual's reported uses of ants were twofold, both demonstrating extreme survival adaptation. First, as a source of protein, consuming them for nutritional sustenance in resource-scarce environments. This protein consumption reflects a documented survival mechanism observed in various extreme situations worldwide. Second, and more remarkably, he used the ants as crude surgical staples for wound closure. This method involves allowing ants to bite across a wound opening, then removing their bodies while their mandibles remain locked. The ant stapling technique represents an improvised medical procedure documented in historical survival contexts. Both uses demonstrate how extreme circumstances can drive unconventional adaptations using available resources. These methods, while primitive, follow logical patterns of resource utilization observed in survival scenarios. This technique uses ant mandibles as natural sutures, documented in survival medicine. The process involves deliberately provoking ants to bite along wound margins. Once the ants clamp down, their bodies are snapped off, leaving heads in place. This creates temporary wound closure in environments without modern medical supplies. The technique is extremely painful due to ant venom and mechanical trauma. It represents a last resort method when infection risk outweighs immediate pain. Similar emergency techniques exist across various traditional survival practices. Modern medicine has largely replaced such methods with sterile sutures and adhesives. His survival was not based on a single trick, but on a comprehensive system. This systematic approach involves securing multiple resources through different methods. He collected water by harvesting rainfall and extracting moisture from plants. This dual-source method provided redundancy, a common principle in survival situations. For sustenance, he foraged for wild fruits and other available food sources. This foraging required knowledge of edible versus poisonous flora, a critical survival skill. Small, consistent food sources were prioritized over risky, large-scale hunting. This systematic resource management created a sustainable, if precarious, existence. The basic shelter provided minimal protection from the elements, constructed from available natural materials. While not his primary focus, ants became a crucial component of his survival strategy. These insects served as a reliable, renewable source of nutrition in an environment with limited food options. Beyond sustenance, ants were utilized for managing injuries through traditional methods observed in survival situations. This dual-purpose use formed a crucial pillar in his overall survival approach, demonstrating adaptive resourcefulness. However, the precise day-by-day timeline of his movements and decisions during this period remains undocumented. This gap in documentation creates limitations in understanding the exact sequence of events and choices. Such incomplete records are common in survival scenarios where documentation is not the primary concern. The exact species of every plant or animal he consumed during his ordeal hasn't been independently verified by scientific analysis. This lack of verification is common in survival stories, where immediate rescue often takes priority over forensic documentation of consumed resources. The full extent of his psychological state during this period is known only to him, as is typical with extreme solitary survival experiences. Such psychological data is rarely captured in real time, relying instead on later interviews which can be affected by memory and trauma. Crucially, the specific details of his eventual rescue, exactly who found him, and the precise location, are often generalized in public accounts. This generalization protects the privacy of rescuers and the exact wilderness location, a common practice in such cases. These informational gaps create a pattern seen in many documented survival stories, where certain specifics remain between the survivor and the rescue team. The mechanisms of memory, trauma, and operational privacy naturally filter what details enter the public record from such extreme events. This was not a passive ordeal. He was making constant, active choices throughout the process. The situation required ongoing decisions, not simply waiting for events to unfold. The ant, stitches, represented a desperate medical intervention born from limited options. This practice was not a clean or safe procedure by modern medical standards. It carried a high risk of severe infection, as sterilization methods were primitive. Such interventions highlight the extreme measures taken when conventional care is unavailable. The choice to proceed reflects a calculated risk in dire circumstances. This underscores the tangible dangers faced, far removed from passive suffering. The phrase, "living off ants," is a dramatic oversimplification that fails to capture the reality of this survival situation. Survival for over 10 weeks required diverse foraging strategies and immense resourcefulness, not reliance on a single food source. This case provides concrete lessons in survival psychology and practical preparation for extreme situations. The first key insight is that knowledge consistently proves more valuable than gear alone in long-term survival scenarios. While proper equipment is undoubtedly vital, the survivor's most critical asset was applied: practical knowledge. This knowledge enabled the identification of ants as a usable, if painful, protein resource when other options were limited. The decision to utilize ants represents a calculated trade-off between nutritional need and physical discomfort. This pattern mirrors other documented survival cases where mental adaptability determined outcomes more than physical resources. This principle underscores that understanding basic flora, fauna, and first aid principles for your environment is irreplaceable. Knowledge of local plants can mean the difference between finding nourishment and consuming something toxic. Recognizing animal behavior patterns helps avoid dangerous encounters and can signal changes in weather or other hazards. Basic first aid skills, such as treating a wound or stabilizing a fracture, are critical when professional medical help is hours or days away. This foundational knowledge forms a non-negotiable baseline for managing risk in unpredictable situations. The second key principle is the mindset of utilization. Survival is about seeing potential tools, not just obstacles. A sharp stone becomes a cutting tool. A plastic bottle transforms into a water container. A mylar blanket can signal for help. This cognitive shift involves constantly evaluating one's surroundings for resources rather than viewing them as mere hindrances. It is a practice skill that turns a passive victim of circumstance into an active problem solver. Together, environmental knowledge and a utilitarian mindset create a powerful framework for navigating crises. This cognitive shift from viewing a threat as a problem to be solved, rather than a victim to be endured, is fundamental in survival psychology. The example of repurposing a biting insect demonstrates adaptive thinking under extreme pressure. This pattern appears across documented survival scenarios, from wilderness emergencies to urban disasters. The psychological mechanism involves reframing threats as resources, which reduces panic and enables practical action. This contrasts with victim mentality, where individuals remain passive in the face of adversity. Documented cases show this cognitive shift significantly increases survival odds in life-threatening situations. The transformation from perceived victim to active problem solver represents a critical survival skill. This fundamental principle applies whether facing natural disasters, accidents, or other emergency scenarios. In survival situations, medical emergencies often take precedence over other needs. Infection control becomes critical when professional medical care is unavailable. This principle applies across various emergency scenarios, from wilderness accidents to urban disasters. Stabilizing injuries can prevent conditions from deteriorating during evacuation or rescue delays. Unlike food or shelter needs, untreated wounds can become life-threatening within hours. Basic first aid knowledge significantly increases survival odds in emergency situations. Resilience in survival situations is not a mystical trait, but a documented psychological and physiological process. It involves the brain's executive functions overriding panic to focus on immediate, actionable tasks. This pragmatic focus on next step decisions is a common thread in documented survival accounts, from maritime disasters to wilderness ordeals. The process often begins with a brutal assessment of available resources and the acceptance of a new, harsh reality. Endurance is then built through routines, securing water, maintaining shelter, signaling for help, which combats psychological isolation. The critical difference between life and death frequently hinges on maintaining this disciplined, step-by-step approach amidst relentless hardship. These documented mechanisms show resilience as a learnable set of behaviors, not an inborn quality reserved for a few. The ultimate lesson is understanding these tangible processes, which can apply to extreme adversity far beyond the wilderness.